Thanks very much for joining us on the Job Scam Report. And my name is Mark Anthony Dyson. If you want to know more about me and what I do, there's probably a bunch of places you can go. One, you can go to my LinkedIn profile, but the other one is you can go to Mark Anthony Dyson at I'm sorry, markanthonydyson.substack.com. And that's who I am. Subscribe so you can get everything that you could possibly get out there, articles, podcasts, videos, etc. So I wanted to have a panel. Actually, these guys coerced me to have a panel. I'm just held prisoner on
Yeah, we
this
strong armed
platform.
you.
They strong on me, but it was a great idea actually. And this is what kind of I had envisioned. I just had faceless when I first did. I had faceless people who I thought would be there, and sure enough, here they appear. Introducing first the lady of the group. This is Ashley Price Horton, and you can get to her through her LinkedIn profile and also for at moneymadevirtually.mn.co. Is that an active group for you, Ashley?
Yes, so this group
Okay.
is filled with individuals who are making the transition into cybersecurity or who are job hunting. And so we are very active. Our community is thriving, and people are landing
Mhm.
job opportunities left and right.
Of course. That's awesome. That's great to know. And of course, we've got the profiler, Jay Jones. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, thank you. Glad to be back. Round two.
Yes, round two. Here we are. And I can't seem to, my camera just seems to shift a little bit. So if I'm in and out of the pictures, not because I want to be, but because my camera's just not making me great today. Uh, so hopefully you all are, the rest of you, if you have questions, feel free to put it in the chat. We'll be answering questions from the chat. Should you have any comments, feel free. I'll feature them. And I want you all to just have a good time in listening to us talk. And you may even have some insights too, because really it's a learning process. And there's a lot of ways that these scammers have decided to go. They have a lot of different layers. In fact, Jay and I were just talking about how there are um, there's a new site. In fact, we posted about it just a little bit ago. There's a new site. It's kind of an old site, but a new site with 500 jobs they were able to get to in a matter of a few minutes. I imagine they're probably even using AI. You think, Jay?
Yeah, there's no way they can, type all of this stuff, by
Right.
themselves. They're using AI and, job scrapers. And, what they did is they added about 540 plus jobs and they've been there for maybe a few days. And, I
Hmm.
looked into them and then I saw, this is an interesting plot twist. They had a review and the name there was mine. So, they're trolling me. Um, but they're not the brightest, obviously. And so, these jobs, I looked at them and I recognized the description from a previous case I did with the all staff staffing and recruiting, where there was this site
Hmm.
that was pretending to be that company and using these job descriptions. So, they're back at it again.
Yeah, that's the craziest thing too, and that's it. That is kind of a new twist, isn't it? Is that the
And
first
using
time
it,
somebody actually? It's like they were poking the bear.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you call me, here I come. So,
Yeah, yeah, I. Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. And I know that, and I think people know if they follow my timeline and they follow yours on LinkedIn, or if they followed me on YouTube, they would have seen you and I talk about the fake LinkedIn profiles and how they really are just so they're like they're like leeches, and we call them
mhm.
parasites because that's what they are. They and there's thousands of them, unfortunately, on that platform.
Yeah, they're those little things that go underneath the sharks when they're swimming in the ocean. They just get the debris from the people that really are doing the work. So it's just there's minimal oversight. I mean, I just posted the other day about a company. This guy was named Mohammed Wakas, and he was having this. He was claiming to be a certified resume writer, and he wasn't. And then he had
Mm,
another profile that he operated with no image, and the name was resume underscore last name writer. Like,
hmm.
it's a joke.
Yeah, yeah, yes,
but
it
it's
is.
sad
And
because people
Go ahead,
fall
Ashley.
for it. And that's the part that makes it so scary, which is why this session is so needed, because what I'm realizing is what is obvious maybe to us three is not
Hmm.
so obvious to your everyday job seeker, especially when you're in a vulnerable state and you are desperately looking for employment. It's I had a case
Hmm.
of a gentleman who sent me a DM just recently sharing his story about how his entire life savings was just wiped out
Oh,
because he fell victim to a scam where um, the scammers told him that he received a job offer and that he had to purchase the equipment that he needed, and everything gone. Everything.
yeah, yeah. That's definitely, and yeah, I know we can't take for granted what we know is common knowledge. It really isn't because it's still happening at alarming rates.
Yeah, I mean, I know
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
a guy. He messaged me maybe a week and a half ago. He had an ordeal with a company. I won't name him because I have to further look into it. But he was
Right.
promised a job offer. He moved into a new city, and when he gets there, they tell him, "Oh, the job offer fell through. So there's nothing we can do." And there's a problem I'm noticing with this whole thing of job offers falling through because there is a plausible out where you could just say that, yeah, the funding went away. But when we're in this kind of job market where there's so many ghost jobs and bad actors, I think that the legitimate companies have to do a bit more. So if you do say that the job offer fell through or the contract is no longer funded, there should be like a formal document that you give to the person that says, this was the company, this is why it fell through, we apologize, and go from there. But to
Mm,
just say it fell through, that's not good enough.
Yeah,
right.
because these
And
people are leaving their jobs. They're
Yeah,
leaving
he
right.
went to a
their
whole new
legitimate
city.
job.
Yeah, I know a
I
Mm-hmm.
lady.
call.
She took a job. She took a job and left her real job, thinking that she was going to another real job. It was the Sheen job scam where they pretended to give her a job with Sheen, but she took
Mm,
that job and they emptied her bank account, and then her real job she couldn't go back to. So people's lives are being literally ruined.
absolutely. And some people have fallen to scams 2 and 3 times, even.
Yeah.
Sometimes it even started on LinkedIn. But a lot of times, I put that little question in the chat, uh, in the comment section, uh, that I ask, how did people get lured in if they were scam? Most of them, they get the email. The LinkedIn scams that happens, but a lot of them find the email scams are really truly big, and people, unfortunately, whether it's the spelling of the URL or it's the name that just there's always somebody always figures something suspicious, but they don't abort. They almost
Yeah,
like
yeah.
almost
Hmm.
That's it.
out of curiosity, which works against you and it works for you. Unfortunately, when it comes to scams, curiosity works against you in
Yeah.
many of these cases if you fall victim. Is that what you're finding too, Ashley?
Yeah, and actually, I'll say this, and we'll be talking about this, guys, a bit later in some of the ways in which you can kind of spot the scams.
Hmm.
Members of my community are actively job hunting right now. And one of the big things that I push is make sure you're doing your validations before you submit any resume. A recruiter reaches out to you, I need you to do these checks first. And just today, a member of my community was contacted for a position from somebody from HR department from a Gmail account. Okay, so things like that.
That's
You,
yeah, that's a automatic, right?
yep.
Yeah, and I think too, Jay, and maybe you could comment on this, and I don't know what your opinion about it, but really, I think people need to understand there's some things that are just automatically, like the Gmail thing is automatic.
Hmm.
It is also possible that being that people are also applying to maybe hundreds of jobs each month.
Hmm.
Yeah.
If you're expecting, unless they tell you you get a text back, um, you're likely not going to, especially legitimate companies. But having said that, in the time that we're in, even if a legitimate company texts you out of the blue, to remain safe, I think people are going to maybe miss a opportunity or two because you're trying to be safe rather than, I mean, safe should be an operative word now. Of course, we want technique and we want strategy, we want good judgment, but safe is really now kind of has to be this first thing you've got to consider when you're out on the streets job searching.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it goes back to the mindset, because people are thinking about external things independent of the job. They're thinking about the bills they have to pay. They're thinking about the people that they're responsible for.
Right.
And, I was never a fan of the desperate banner that, went viral because when you're
Yeah.
desperate, you're in a certain mindset and that desperation clouds your judgment. And so,
Yeah.
this is the type of market where you can't just override yourself. Like if there is something that you think is illegitimate, then you need to fully investigate that. And, if you
Hmm.
find out that it is real, but you didn't miss that opportunity, then at least you didn't get scammed because, being scammed always makes it worse. And, when it comes to, the process of vetting jobs and, nothing would ever come from a Gmail account. And, I just talked about this with Artisan Talent because someone is pretending to be a recruiter. So they're pretending to
Hmm.
be a real person who works there, Caroline Imhoff, but they're calling themselves Carolina Imhoff. And, they're
Right.
sending an emails out to people, soliciting information. And, it's the most sophisticated one I've seen so far, but you have to do due diligence, and you have to be thorough, because if you override yourself, then you're really doing yourself a disservice.
You
Right.
know what?
Now,
To that
Ashley,
point.
well,
Oh,
can
I'm
I
sorry.
ask you a question, Ashley? I think
Yeah.
this is really important because since you're in cybersecurity, I've had someone a long time, and I've told this story several times, but it made me really think that this is how seekers need to view job search. There's a large company. I mean, one of the big four tech companies, I won't say who it was, they actually got the person got a scam notice offering job opportunity and this, that, and other. The person went along with it and ended up getting scammed. But I think th- when you look through some of the legitimate company sites, you'll find that they have their hiring process on their site,
Hmm.
and I
Yeah.
really truly believe that they should go look for what their process is even before they start to engage, because
Yeah.
that will tell you exactly what you need to know because they put that there for a purpose. There are no special circumstances. They don't want to confuse. They're very careful when they tread what they give to the public. So, in the cybersecurity world and tech world, are you finding that they are using that particular page often, or do you find that that some are and some aren't?
So, what I am finding, and it's sad, is that people are trusting that platforms like LinkedIn and Indeed are vetting the jobs that are published on their platform as
Mm,
being safe. And so they are going onto those platforms and like just trusting that, hey, when I apply to this, I'm applying for a real job. Now, one thing I always say is if you see a job on one of these platforms, I don't want you to click on any buttons. I don't even want you
right.
to click the apply on company's website button on LinkedIn. I don't want you to do that at all. I want you to find, how about I say this? If it is a large company and you know that company, then by all means go right to the website. If it's a
Hmm.
company you have never heard of, I want you to go on Google first, look at Reddit reviews, look at Glassdoor. I want you to do some checks before you go to any link that could potentially infect your computer or take over. Okay. Now, it's very unfortunate that you have to now be at a spot where you can't just trust that LinkedIn is putting up a safe position. Anybody can do that now. So
Hmm.
you must go to that company's platform. Um, I actually had a situation just a few weeks ago where I was on Indeed and I was looking up different jobs and I said, "Oh, that's an interesting job. I'm going to share it with my community." I clicked
Hmm.
the go to company's website button. I got real good antivirus on my computer. Okay. That
Right.
thing had so much pop ups and your computer is infected. And I'm like, man, that's right through. Indeed's platform when you click that button to apply.
Yeah,
So I tell people don't click on any of those buttons, those links. Just research it first.
yeah, yeah. I think um, I had Marcus on here. He was a crime investigator a few weeks ago. I don't know if you guys saw that episode. It's there on YouTube. It's also on the podcast on Substack. But
Mm,
his mantra is think, is pause, think, verify. I think if people do follow those steps and they research it all the way through, think through it through every aspect of it, and verify thoroughly that that is the case. And there's a lot of ways that people can verify. LinkedIn is great for verification as long as you have people who are legitimately in your network who are legitimately working at those companies or know something about it. You want probably want to even vet the people who may even refer you, because I've had an instance where somebody referred me to a tech service, and I was very suspicious about it. I was going, why this? And I went to their profile and I saw they've been recommending it to a whole bunch of people. I said, oh,
mm,
you see, there you
They could have
go.
had their account taken over.
Exactly. Or for the fact that they're doing this in partnership with whoever they have working for
mm.
the tech company. But ultimately, yeah, it's you've got to even check the people who refer you. If you get referred by a stranger, you better do 2 or 3 times worth, unless you know them personally, you trust it. That's different. But there's just so many ways that people really need to consider how they're going to be involved themselves. Jay, you were about to say something here a second
Mm,
ago.
Yeah, when it comes to the job board, LinkedIn, there's minimal oversight on a lot of this because, I see way too many jobs that, are rapidly posted. And, there was this one gentleman who was an official, founder of this previous company that I covered. And he asked the question, he was like, why were no flags triggered for over 3,000 jobs being added, instantly nearly? And, he got
Mm-hmm.
the website taken down, which was hosted through lever.co. But the company that I was talking about today was called Recruitment Consulting. It's all caps. And, one of the prompts when you go through is you will receive an email within the next 24 hours with the next steps to finalize your application. If you'd like to proceed immediately, you can move forward by clicking this link. But when you click
Mm-hmm.
that link, it takes you to a credit application. And you have to pay $1 to, have the credit application run. But when you pay that dollar, what you're really doing is giving them your card information so they can then, get access to your account and bill it.
Yeah,
And then the other twist is when you click apply, because it's an easy apply button, there's a disclaimer that says job safety reminder, which means that somebody at some point flagged this and it's still up, which is unacceptable.
totally, totally, and that should
yeah.
be a red flag. Again, it's possible that if you're applying, I first of all, I don't like mass applying. I don't like it when
No.
people. I think that is the worst way to job search is to apply to 200 jobs a month, or 100 jobs, or even 50 jobs, unless you really thought it through. And you're applying that, more than likely 2 or 3 of those out of 50 are going to be a scam, or they're a
Mm,
scam company. And they may not have scammed yet because they get in and out fast. As soon as they scam a few people, the website's gone, the profile's gone, or it's
Oh,
just
they'll
crazily.
yeah, they'll also quickly block you because you don't really remember who it was you were speaking to. Like their names are typically foreign names, and so you don't really remember how to like pronounce it or how to write it. And if they give you two, three, four messages, and then you apply or give your information, then that's all they need, and they quickly block you. Like just in this
yeah.
past 4 to 5 days, I've gotten messages on LinkedIn from about 7 to 8 recruiters from Corn Ferry, but they're not
Mhm.
affiliated with Corn Ferry at all. And I screenshot all of them, but when you try to go back to the profile, it's automatically gone. So they'll either, like you said, quickly abandon it or block you.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
And to that point, and I see Sean's message. Hey Sean, that's actually one of my good friends. Um,
Okay.
whenever somebody messages you and you don't, one thing that I like to do is I'll take their image and I'll put it in Google because I want to see if they potentially stole somebody else's picture or if this person truly is who they're saying they are. And so sometimes you'll see cases in which It won't be an AI picture. It'll be a legitimate picture of maybe Jay or Mark or even you. But they
Hmm.
took it, added some new text to the page to make it look like it's you, right? But it's not. So always just do additional checks. Verify that they actually are a legitimate person. And if any red flags start to pop up, just don't engage. It's not worth it.
Yeah, I want to be sure to read Sean's question because this is going to be an audio podcast as well. Sean was, and Ashley was replying to Sean's question. Do you think we should reply to LinkedIn messages from unknown individuals applying for an unposted job? Real recruiters identify themselves in full first, is my
Yeah.
experience. A lot of my colleagues are recruiters. A lot of my friends are recruiters. And so, I trust them. And if I have a question, I can go and ask them, hey, what do you think of this person? I think that, it might be smart to have some recruiters in your network
Hmm.
who are real good at verifying because they have their own language. I think sometimes,
That's it. And
and,
that's
Yeah.
my former
and
background was
actually, that's
recruiting.
that you did that. You guys have your, and so game recognizes game, and most of them can identify in a hot second whether it's a real recruiter or not. If somebody's being secretive and not being straightforward with their identity, then abort is what I'll say. Just abort. And I got to say, the chat is off the hook right now because so I'm gonna try to get to everybody as I possibly can.
Can I
Going back,
speak to that point really quick?
go ahead.
Um, when it comes to how recruiters talk, like the fake ones, what they'll do is they'll send what I call cliffhanger messages. So they'll be like, "Hey, I'm stunned to see somebody as spectacular as you is on the job market, and I have this great opportunity. Are you interested in learning more?" And that's the hook. It gets you emotionally connected. And then the cliffhanger is, well, if I don't say anything, I'm going to miss this great opportunity because it's just for me. And so, real recruiters will be like, "Hey, I see your profile. I see that you have these experiences and you've worked in these industries. I think this is the role you'd be great for." They'll send you a link and, always verify the link and whatnot. Do your due diligence on the recruiter because even if they appear legitimate, you still have to check them out. And, from there, begin the application process. But, if they're overly congratulatory or gushing over you and they don't know you, be on
Mhm.
alert.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about profile pictures for a hot second because that's also very suspect. And a lot of times it's a dead giveaway. And I remember once that I saw someone post a message because I sometimes will look up, this is how I look up job scams many times. I'll go to LinkedIn and use what called, Ashley, the term Boolean search, right?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
so I'll put in quotes job scams, and I'll go down the list to see what's on for the day. Do you know there are scammers warning about job scammers
Yeah, that's their
and how
other
and
angle.
and
Yeah.
and, and what's interesting is I saw 6 people with the same message in this word per word, an exact message the same way. And I just thought, wow, these people are really out of control. I mean, they're literally attacking, and mind you, yeah, they're using social engineering. They're playing on people's emotions, their desperation, their anxiousness, their curiosity, and even to some degree, the discouragement. They're playing on it, so they know that if they cast a wide net, that they're bound to get a few takers. But when you see that, you go, wow, this person can't be all that bad because they're warning us about scams. Burglars will warn you about murderers. Let's just get this straight here. Having said that, I think people will have to understand that their safety and the research, that's a part of the game now. That I think those of us in the career space, I've been in the career space 15 years, and for years been telling research companies, research people, don't be so haphazardless and reckless and applying now. You literally can't because you face imminent dangers online. And so Georgina says the downside is that those company websites don't usually respond, and they make the application process tedious, which can deter people from applying. Now, in my opinion, it even sounds like a actual company that does that, right? Because we've heard that and we've seen that on LinkedIn. Ashley, in your estimation, and you working with clients directly, and Jay, you can comment too because you're actively looking. That perhaps that people are having a lot of those complaints, and do you feel like that those mud waters are getting kind of muddy between the actual company, real companies, because of their process and the fake companies? That some of that language kind of sounds the same. That there's kind of this middle ground.
Yeah, because honestly, I always say job hunting and now vetting jobs is a job in itself. It's a
Mm-hmm.
long process just to number one, find that job posting and even see if it's there. Then it's a waste of time when it's not, right? So then you get discouraged and you're thinking, well,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not going to do that anymore. I'm just going to apply. The logical thinking is, well, maybe they didn't have time to put it on their website. They just put it on Lever, right? Or they put it on this
Mm-hmm.
platform. So I'll just go ahead and apply anyway. Um, and there's a lot of videos now going online specifically about Lever and how you can do different Boolean searches to find
Mm-hmm.
a list of job opportunities. But the downside is they're not talking about that security aspect because
Right.
anybody can put a job on there. There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing to say that I can't pretend I'm with Amazon or another company, but
Hmm.
people will
Right.
blankly trust that and just go with that because it's the easy route. But that easy route is dangerous, very dangerous, and it can cost you everything that you have. So I would encourage you to take the more challenging route, which is going through the company platform, even if that means you can only apply to 3 jobs that day as opposed to maybe 10. At least you'll know that the jobs you're applying for are legitimate and safe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
Jay.
And then when it comes to what the companies are doing to make it more tedious, the other perspective is they're constantly bombarded with thousands upon thousands of applicants. Many of them might not even fit the requirements. They're also using a mass supply, program that, is not fully, thorough in getting them to the right opportunities. And so what they're doing to try to mitigate that is making it more tedious. So if you're using a mass supply app that just applies, then it's not reading that, hey, you need to send us an email that has this keyword in the subject line, or you need to, write this sentence in the job application so we know that this is really an application from you. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yes, it is tedious, but imagine if 1,000 people are coming at your door and most of them aren't qualified, or you don't know what's going on and you're trying to mitigate visitors. Like the most famous example would be the house from Home Alone. Like, people always go there and, they don't want all this attention. So they do things to create a barrier so that people who
Right.
are really interested and really, suitable for this role get through. So that's the downside of scamming. That's the downside of, desperation. And the downside of the constant layoffs is, people are just rapidly trying to find their next thing, and it just overloads the system.
Yeah, and I think that two companies are wanting to protect themselves from uh, AI and people who are mass applying. So the article that I had sent you guys, and I won't spend a lot of time on this, but I want to make it this point because scammers are using AI to apply. They can apply to a bunch of jobs in one company just to get in using personal information from somebody that they scam. So when that has happened, and since a lot of the recruiters, a lot of my recruiters' friends, and actually you could probably attest this to a lot of your colleagues, that that they are tired of going through 400 or 500 applications and resumes, and however they're getting the information, and they're finding out that maybe there's people multiple applying to a job, that they are also getting maybe 2 or 3 out of those applicants who are really real people and have somewhat what they need. So it really lengthens the process for the recruiter. And a lot of times that's why we see these lead times, uh, 2 or 3 months before they actually get to an actual interview. Am I right,
And
Ashley?
yeah, honestly, this is like one of the worst times to be a recruiter, especially now with these tools that use AI to apply for you.
Hmm.
You just don't you don't even know. And so I see posts of recruiters saying, I just got 2,000 applicants in the last 4 hours. How is
This for
that
one
possible?
position, right?
Yep.
For one position.
Just for on one platform,
Hmm.
on LinkedIn alone. And that was
Yeah.
unheard of. And you see that a lot more even with these remote jobs. You don't see it as much with like in-person roles, but the remote roles, it's
Hmm.
crazy. Thousands of applicants.
Yeah, I believe that, and uh, and I understand that a lot of these roles here, if they're posted on LinkedIn, it's everybody in the world that can see them. All the 1 billion users that are on LinkedIn, they can actually see that. And that's not to say all 1 billion will apply, but the odds are thousands are going to apply. But unfortunately, again, it's a system that still needs to be tweaked and to be able to get the bad guys out of there. Jay?
Yeah, I agree with that because I think, what would help job seekers is to treat their information, their personal information much more, treasure it much more. So look at it like you're sitting in a coffee shop and here comes this guy in a dark trench coat and he's like, "What's your email?" Like, you
Right.
need to treat it like that. Like, why would I give you my email? I don't know you. And so, when you're on LinkedIn, you're looking at it like you're trusting everybody. You have this assumption of
Hmm.
trust that everybody's on the up and up, which makes you more inclined to give your information. But how scammers work is they need one thing and then they'll go and search and then they'll get another piece and another piece and another piece. And then they've built you and then they can go and, apply in your name. So, that's what you need to do. I just think that people should not list and, be much more diligent with what they put out there.
Right, right. I think Milet Williams, thanks for commenting. Uh, they said now it's become a job to look for the company that posted the job. When will the madness end? We don't know.
I get it. I get it.
Yeah, I
So
totally get it.
Milet
And
is a member of
oh, they're
Milet is a
coming
member of
out for
my cyber
you. That's
community.
awesome. But having this is a good point though. Let's stick with that very, very same thing. You and actually this is I want to put it in the proper context, but everybody is getting and falling victim to scams, even the tech savvy. And we're talking about even
Yes.
people who are in cybersecurity are getting, fooled by these scammers. Am I right?
Yeah, it's a whole different mindset. In cybersecurity, you're trained to protect the organization. You're not
Hmm.
necessarily trained on how to protect yourself in the job hunt, right? So it's a whole different learning process. And so people in cybersecurity are falling victim left and right.
Mm. And that's wild, isn't it? I mean, you would think, and an employer looking on who are running big tech companies, they're saying, well, if you can't protect yourself, how can you protect us? So it's kind of like you also have to be careful how you share that information if you're in cybersecurity because you don't want the impression that you're reckless, right? So
That's yeah, yeah.
go ahead, Jay. Go ahead,
I was
Jay.
saying that's the other thing that scammers thrive off of is the embarrassment that you feel. And so when you
Yeah.
don't share that you were scammed, then that particular scam is not outed, so people don't know how to defend against it. And so,
Hmm.
I encourage people to share exactly what happened, exactly who did it, if you have proof, because, you have to be able to prove it. And so, when you share this information, it not only gets that, weight off of your back of being ashamed, but it helps other people avoid that same kind of, thing happening to them. And then Amber Bowman, she has a comment here. She said, I went through giving out my pictures of my ID, social
Hmm.
security ID, checking info to what I felt like was a legitimate company, and she doesn't know what to do. And, I'll share this. She messaged me asking, for her, um, asking for some help because she had a situation with a company that gave her an offer and then rescinded it. And so, I believe the company is legitimate. I just think that it's a situation where the contract was actually unfortunately defunded. But in that instance, like I think you should let the person know, like via formal paperwork, like this is the company and this is why it was defunded or whatnot. Because like I said before, it's too much going on out here that's wrong to just say it was defunded and that's it.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
And you know what's scary to me, and about I'm talking about actual real companies that actually are hiring all that. I early on when I first created the job scan report, one of the first things or first, second, or third thing I even mentioned is that companies are taking information, but they're not telling us what they're doing with it. And
Hmm.
it kind of makes you wonder if legitimate companies are actually selling it to third parties themselves. Now, we can argue whether it's legitimate third parties or not, but it's kind of interesting that a lot of companies aren't saying what they do with that information. Like if you apply, I think Nvidia is one of the few big companies I've seen so far, and there are probably a whole lot more that they are
Hmm.
very specific about how they use information. And there are other
Hmm.
companies that also have said that you get to choose how you want anything. Can we? Do you want to get our newsletters? Do you want to get our other information? Do you want us to just get rid of your information? At least give me the option as to how you are going to use the company, how you're going to use that information.
Yeah, I mean, for a long while, the currency shifted from money to information. And, the currency of the day is your information because that gets you the
Yep.
money. So that's the
Yep.
primary thing. And that's why I said, you have to be guarded with it. And, yes, the information is being sold because it's valuable. Because, I remember there was a leak of a lot of information on a certain job board, I won't say, but, that, is still out there and is still being abused to this day.
Yeah, and I've
And
actually reported on it. Well, I shared on it on LinkedIn earlier this year. It was called, and Mark Evans and I talked about um, resume looters. They call them resume looters. They were over in Asia, and they were able to get several million different i- personal information from resumes and from applications and what have you. And I thought, oh well, whatever happens over there is going to eventually come here. And a friend of mine, Craig Fisher, who's also a recruiter, well, also talks about scamming, had said that no, understand that a lot of these servers, like from Indeed and these big um, job boards, their servers are over there in Asia. I said, "Oh, I didn't think about that, or I didn't even know that at the time. But now that I know, when you hear stuff like that, it's going to affect people in the U.S. And if you're from overseas, you're watching. It could affect you too, because a lot of these servers, again, they're global. They're not just in one spot. So, Ashley, did you want to add anything to that?
um, no, no.
Okay,
I
okay.
was just in so much shock I lost my train of thought.
You're
Oh, yes,
looking at
yes,
the
yes, yes,
chat,
yes,
aren't
I
you?
did. I I did. One thing that's so important whenever you're going to apply, especially if it's like any company, you can find out what they're doing with your data by looking at their privacy policy. And if you happen to look at their privacy policy, which is all the way at the bottom of it's usually all the way at the bottom in like the footer
Hmm.
section of the website, it'll
Hmm.
say to you how they're using your information if you want to take that extra step forward. That's why you see a lot of these companies now getting sued by the FTC because they are not properly disclosing how they are using your data or how they are
Right.
sharing it with third parties, right? And so as long as that information is up to date, you can at least get an idea of what they're doing with your information.
Yeah, I think they should put it on the job board that they're on. If they're on Indeed, they should have a privacy a policy along with the job description, so that people
Hmm.
don't get
Agreed.
to use. Is way too rampant right now, and I think people's, again, safety is has got to be first. I like Harold Kafler's, and forget the outline that I have because we're hitting, I think, all the points here. He says, speaking of easy apply, tell job seekers to actually go to the company's posted, list it directly on the company site, then follow up LinkedIn to message the recruiter or HR person who works at the firm or company to alert them to their online apply. There's one thing about that is you got to be sure that the recruiter is an actual recruiter and has a real profile. Let's get
Hmm.
this straight
Yep.
because we goes back to our first discussion, because a lot of times even people will use like the company page to engage, but the real recruiter is not really even doesn't even recruit for that particular position, much less the company recruiting for it. And
Yeah.
sometimes they even use legitimate people who have voices who post things regularly. They'll use them as the avatar, saying I'm that person. And so when you go
Hmm.
look for the profile, you think that is real, but you don't
Hmm.
see any. But if you don't see any communication about it, you've got to you got to go some extra steps to see if that person's legitimate. Does that sound
Yep.
about right to you guys, Ashley?
Yeah, that's why I recommend doing a Google search of that image. So, like, just save the image, upload it
Mm-hmm.
into Google, and then verify, okay, am I seeing other images of this person and is it a different name? Because you'll see that a lot. I even see that on Jade. Like, if y'all look at his post, people pretending to be other recruiters, and you can identify that by looking on Google at that
Mm-hmm.
image, right? And
Yeah.
so, doing those checks are important. And I always say, don't just go directly to the company's website unless it's a company that you know is legit. Because you might be going to a company that once you go to that link, you've now infected your computer. So do some additional checks before you even go there. Go on Reddit. Reddit will Reddit will chew companies
Yeah,
up,
they're
y'all.
unfiltered. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and they'll say, I went on there and they scanned me. And don't even proceed to the website at that point.
Right. And you got and people have to look for the make sure that they're going to the correctly spelled website. Many times, like in other words, I use this example many times. There was a scam out there where somebody says they're from Microsoft and we got this job. When you look at the Microsoft URL, they have an extra T in Microsoft. And so they thought that because they misspell or they were so excited or that they whatever state of mind, they go to an actual misspell, which leads them to the wrong place. And they'll look, oh, look, look at all everything that's around. There's other signs when you go to a site like it being sparsely filled, misspellings on the page. I mean, Microsoft does not do that. And that's just an
Mhm.
example of one of many companies that have been used, or they use the hyphenated career dash Microsoft,
Mhm.
and they don't use those kind of URLs. So that's where people really have to also take the careful look. Um, in when they go to an actual site, make sure it's the real site. Jay, did you have a
And
comment
Mark,
on it?
speaking to
Okay, go ahead, Ashley. Go ahead.
okay, speaking to that, the whole URLs thing. One thing I try to tell people is avoid clicking on URLs through your phone. And if you
Hmm.
are getting an URL, have them email it to you and then put your cursor over top of it so you can hover it and see where it's truly taking you.
Right.
Because it may look like it's taking you to Google Meets or Zoom, but the hyperlink behind that text may be something completely different. And you're not going to know it unless you're able to hover over it and see what it says at the bottom.
Yeah, it
Okay.
should show a preview.
Um,
Right.
I can show that right now if you'd like.
Yeah, if you want to, you know how to make your show your screen, certainly.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah, I think people too can also take everything behind the at, put it in Google, and most of the time, 95% of the time, it will say whether if it's a true site, or it'll correctly send you to the right site. It may not send you to that site, but it's only going to save you to the site that uh, or it's going to warn you. Or if you have an ad blocker, it can also give you a good chance for not hitting the wrong site. Is what I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So let me know. Can you see
So
my screen?
not yet. I think there's a delay with
Hmm.
yours. Um, I'm going to try to get the whole screen. Jay, don't freak out.
Okay.
I'm just going to star Ashley here.
Oh man, it's just me. Let's see. Can you guys see my screen at all? Like you guys on the in the chat, can you let me know if you see it? You guys might not be able to see it. Uh-oh. I don't see any comments. Mark, I
It's
can't tell if anybody can see it or not.
okay. All right. I'll bring you back. Well, I see. I think
Oh, there we go.
we'll see.
Okay.
There we go. Okay. Good deal.
So, here's what I mean. So, let's say I want you to think I'm sending you to Amazon.com, right? Like that's a legit link, right? But
Hmm.
what I can do, I can change the web address that I'm taking you to. And instead, I could send you to my platform, right?
Hmm.
You're not going to know. You see that thing at the bottom left corner? You're not going
Hmm.
to know where it's taking you unless you hover over it and you look at what it says at the bottom. So at first glance, you think you're going to Amazon.com, but really you're going to a whole different platform. You're not going to be able to check this out on your cell phone. That's why I always say, like, take it to your computer, ask them to email you, and then do this check. It can help you a ton.
Mhm.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. That was excellent. So, um, yeah, I think as well, people will also can use your network of people you trust and
Mm,
people who are like I said, have some recruiters in your back pocket. If anything, most of them that I know are great at answering those kind of questions. Say, hey, does this person look like a real recruiter? Or even if they work for the same company, can you verify whether this person is actually working or not? I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask. You're not being weak. You're being careful. Actually,
yeah.
you're being very tech savvy and inquisitive about it. So, like I said, I can't help but to say that safety does come first. Let's
Mhm.
highlight another comment here. It says, I find it so random when they come to you about a job opportunity unrelated to your skills or what you're looking for. That's a red flag. That is absolutely a red flag. And, there are times I know there are recruiters who might see there might be some transferable skills, I mean, but that's not without saying, I think this person can do the job. If there's no indication that you can't do the job, then they're not going to contact you because their first priority is your competence. It's not particularly the way that you market yourself or what you did the last time. That's going to be irrelevant unless they see or know something about you that says this is a person I'll definitely be interested in. Would you agree, Ashley, as a recruiter, probably that's your first is make sure that person is at least basically 100% qualified.
Yeah, and it's never absolute like 100%. So I'll just put that out there
Fair
too.
enough.
Um,
Fair.
But one of the things is when you're using a tool like LinkedIn Recruiter, you only get so many emails that you have access to before you have to pay for more. So you're going to be very picky about the people that you reach out to
Mm,
unless you are running these scams where, you're scamming enough people to where you can pay for additional emails and stuff because you're
Mhm.
influxing with more money coming in. Um, I would never recruit for somebody in cybersecurity who I didn't see they had a background in it or skill sets in it.
hmm
It wouldn't make any sense. And so you'll see people get sought after for roles as like um, senior administrative assistant, but they've never worked in that industry, right? Those are things that should be a red flag.
Mhm.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, here's a question that we kind of answered, but I want to be sure we covered all the whole shebang here as much as we can for the time that we have. Do you guys have additional minutes that we can go through, or do we have to hard stop here in a 5 or 10 minutes?
I'm good.
Yeah, I can go a little bit
You're good.
longer. I did want to speak to
Cool.
the
Thank you.
recruiter angle
Th-
thing too, but yeah.
Yeah, right, right. Yeah, that's why I kind of moved on because I figured that's something. But I want to be sure that we can answer as many questions we have because we have a lot of them or a lot of comments. So, is there an easy way to identify if you already been connected with any fake accounts? Good question. Do the photo search is the one way, right?
Hmm.
The other way is to also do the search on your name and in LinkedIn, but also do a Google search in your name too, because they might be using it on another platform.
Hmm.
It may not be LinkedIn. It could be Instagram, where they create this account and took pictures from wherever your LinkedIn was and just moved it over to Instagram. Is that a fair way? Is that a way, Jay, that perhaps that you can also discover not just on LinkedIn, but also make sure that other platforms, your name and your reputation isn't being used?
Yeah, those are a few good ways, and then the other ones are, looking at their profile because it's going to take a bit of legwork. You have to look through their profile and see their recent activity,
Hmm.
if their posts are all, the same, or if they're all constant reposts. Like if somebody
Hmm.
has no contributing thoughts to that are actually original, that is a red flag that that's somebody who's just leeching off of credible accounts and trying to, make their, business dealings in people's inboxes.
Right.
Looking at the tenure of the account, like how old it is. I've seen verified recruiters, I've seen premium recruiters, but they were fake and scammers. So
Mm.
it's really something that you have to be diligent to look at. And it just takes the legwork. You can't just be passive in this job market. You can't be passive with your reputation if you are employed, because what these scammers do is they go around and try to connect to accounts with tenure. And how the algorithm in LinkedIn works is the more connection requests you send to people that are accepted, then you're deemed to be a credible profile. Because if a lot of people say ignore, I don't know this person, then you're potentially flagged to be someone scamming. So you have to actually do the legwork. I hate that it's this way, but that's how it has to be.
Yeah, yeah. And
Jay,
again, again, I think that people, and Ashley, I'll give you a shot at. I was going to say that people have to understand that your days of applying to 50 jobs every month puts you at a little bit more risk than somebody who's been thoughtful about 20 per se, because the person who's 20 is taking the time to fully vet. If you could do 50 within a month, cool. If you're doing 100, you're it's possible that you may be, but nobody wants to job search day and night either, 24/7. But that's
I would I
so
would
let's
actually
be realistic
recommend
after.
upping that. Yeah, I would recommend upping that. If you're only putting in 2 applications a day, there's this whole ghost jobs thing that's happening. And so you may be putting in applications that will never get seen, right? So
Mm,
it really is a strategic numbers game, okay? But with high quality applications and research, which is why it's going to feel like this is a whole nother job, right?
right.
But Jay, you mentioned something that I really wanted to bring attention to, and that is you came across profiles that were verified, not the
Hmm.
premium side, because they could just pay for that, but they
Hmm.
had the legitimate seal, but were
Hmm.
fake accounts.
Hmm. Yeah, what happens with that
Oh,
is you can create a company, and if that company is the whole mission of that company is to defraud, and you work for that company, well, then you can obviously get an email at that company and get verified through that company, and so you look legitimate that way.
Yeah,
it's crazy. So you
that
really
that
have to
is
be
crazy.
careful.
But having the company verification is different than the personal verification
Yeah, it's different than the
process
clear
because
ID. You actually have to
it,
have the
you
license.
actually have to, yeah. Or actually, there's several companies that apparently LinkedIn uses for verification. I forgot which ones they are right now, but I know I've seen several listed that they use. If you're overseas, like in India and part of Asian
Pakistan and
worlds, they
Nigeria.
yeah they use another company for verification. So want
Hmm.
to keep that in mind. But if you have a personal account, get verified, and you can go to it. You can find it there on your profile. And if you don't know it, I'll try to find the link again. If somebody knows the link right off, you can go ahead and paste it in the comment section. But definitely, I want to be sure that people understand. I think again, Ryan, for hitting us up with that question because we want to again try to cover, and we definitely have to do a part two here,
I do want to
guys.
quickly double back to the recruiter thing.
Okay, go
Um,
ahead.
Yeah.
but yeah, definitely part two. But this latest one is the artisan talent, recruiter. This is a person that's pretending to be a real person who works at artisan talent. So the
Uh
real
huh.
person is Caroline, M off with an E at the end, and the fake one
Right.
is Carolina with an A. And the email she sent to someone was, "My name is Caroline. I'm the director of recruitment here at Artisan Talent. We're a digital, creative, and marketing community succeeding to find your best place in the professional world." So you can tell the vernacular is off. So that's a red flag. But
Right.
I was looking all over the web and I was excited to come across your profile. You have had quite the interesting journey. And with your background, I think you're a potential great fit for a few exciting job opportunities I have lined up. Then they name
Mm-hmm.
drop legitimate companies, Procter and Gamble, Lego, and Nestle, to name a few. And
Mm-hmm.
the next part is the cliffhanger. So, to explain it simply, they've reached out to us asking for an out of the box marketing thinker to lead their teams. And I believe you truly match that description. The projects and offers are too exciting for me to pass them here onto writing. I would love a few minutes of your time in the next few weeks to discuss the details. And what this scam is it leads you to a Calendly QR link. So you can schedule an interview that way by scanning the QR code. But what you do when you do that is you give access to your phone, and so they can then install malware. They can then get your contacts and message them and pretend they're you.
Yep.
It's a mess.
It's quite a mess, and hopefully people. I'm surprised how many people don't have virus scans on their phone. I mean, yeah, okay, iPhone they provide one, um, but you should have a suite that you can use in tandem along with your computer on your phone. If you don't have one, you should also have a VPN on your phone too. But that's a whole nother discussion right now. I do want to kind of cover a couple of others comments. Here's something I thought was on my end. I see it as just LinkedIn user. You guys probably could see the name if you're actually on the thread. It says the entire application process from start to finish. Numerous household name reputable type platforms have become broken, and I don't know what Fubar is. It will make your head. Okay, I guess this person's saying that it's there's a lot of reputable recruiters and hiring managers are being used as bait uh, to go to their profile or to engage that person in a phone call or a messaging. And by the way, you shouldn't be going to messaging platforms for any kind of
No, no
hiring
WhatsApp, no,
No
engagement.
no,
WhatsApp.
No,
no,
no WhatsApp, no
No
Zoom,
Yahoo.
no
no,
Facebook.
no.
None of those, please. But we have to say it because I just saw a message this morning. Somebody says that they had something on WhatsApp again. It's like, I guess we can't repeat these messages uh, too often because the three of us were early in on the game still. Even though these scams have been for a while, we're seeing things develop in real time. As to a lot of people, they're just coming to apply the job and get their job needs met, so they have no idea what the trends are. So yes, please feel free to repost this stream, some of everywhere, and I'll
Mhm.
be posting clips from it. Anything, every little thing that you could do helpful. Um, let's probably end with this kind of narrative and the fact that, as you said, Jay and Ashley, you do this in your community. That awareness and knowledge is the greatest weapon against scammers, and that telling what happened to you is a weapon to use against scammers because other
Mhm.
people learn from that. They understand then that it could also happen to them. So
Yeah.
I know that Ashley, you've been doing that in your community for a long time, and it doesn't matter whether somebody is in cybersecurity or if they're executive, because I had a podcast. My friend Lisa Rangel, who works with recruiters, she was an executive with executive recruiters. She was saying that these are the signs of the really good executive recruiters and what they wouldn't do and what they would do and they wouldn't do. You can find that episode at the Job Scan Report on Substack. But you can probably even say yourself that no one here is really above board and that you should look. One sign is really a bad sign at this particular point. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I always say if your intuition is telling you, something doesn't feel right, I always say go on the side of caution.
Hmm.
Um, and so maybe I can leave this off with just sharing a couple of tips so that people
Go
can
ahead.
take these as
Absolutely.
takeaways and keep them in mind. So number one, anytime somebody reaches out to you on LinkedIn and you don't know who they are, don't automatically assume because a friend knows them that they truly know them, right?
Hmm.
Hmm.
So do your due diligence in verifying who they are. Number two, one thing I want you guys to make sure of is take the picture of the profile, put it in Google, and check and see if that person is using somebody else's page or not. Okay.
Hmm.
When it comes to email, if there's things like a whole bunch of spelling mistakes, errors, they're using a Gmail or a Yahoo. Yes, Libby. Okay, they're using like a Gmail or a Yahoo to contact you, then you know, okay, something fishy is going on here. Don't proceed. Okay. That's a big
Yeah,
one. If they ask you to click on a link to get into Google Meets, that's also a big one. There's a lot of red flags. And so I want you guys to do some research on how to keep yourself safe because there's a lot of articles on it and just implement that. Do not allow desperation cost you everything that you've worked so hard for.
Hmm.
yep.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
to lean on people that have more knowledge about it than you. Don't assume that everybody has your best intentions, because I said this in a comment earlier today. I was like, everyone that says they want to see you, find a job, they don't want to see you find a job, because there's a lot of money in keeping people unemployed because you're continually looking for work. And from there, ask any of us if you have any questions. We're glad to help. Use different
Mhm.
resources like the Job Scam Report. I know another website called the Job Applicant Perspective, where people go to share their stories about what they've done, what they've endured, and good businesses that they can work with. Um, and yeah, I mean, just understand that this is a big cyber criminal enterprise, and the only way to stop it is to share information and arm each other. And like you said, your earlier point, Ashley, about connections, in the cases that I've seen countless times where people are connected, and these people that are connected to the scammers are not scamming, they're real people. But just because they blindly accept the connection, like I said, the scammer uses that to build their reputation, because what you see is
Sure.
mutual connections. Oh, this person's legit, so if they're connected, then I must connect to them too. So do your due diligence, and always, like I say, stay vigilant.
Absolutely. And one other point too is, and a couple of points. One is if you've gone to any site, but even though you didn't engage, you should run your virus scan for sure, because that just because you went and you didn't engage and didn't fill out doesn't mean that you were gifted, as I say, some malware, some spyware, some viruses to track your interest and to track your activity, or even just to make life really difficult for you. If you notice your computer is slowing down and acting funny, you should run the virus scan. Especially, if you've been or if you've clicked on an attachment, don't click on attachments from people you don't know. That's just real. That also makes you much more vulnerable than even if you just saying no. But don't be afraid to abort quickly if it sounds funny. I'd rather you abort quickly. It may hurt. I know the people online who I got a comment the other day says, I just don't want people to miss opportunities. They may miss opportunities. It's
Hmm.
possible to miss legitimate opportunities because you're being safe.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a hard pill to swallow, and that's why you got to do that work, getting out of a desperation mode, getting out of anxiousness. I know it's hard. That's part of the survival alert that we have internalized. That's intrinsic. That we want to go into the panic mode, and employers don't want to see that. First of all, but more than all, that clouds your judgment. And if you have a savings, and can you imagine the story that Jay told, that someone's life savings was depleted, rather,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something they were leaning on to go forward with while they look for an opportunity. And that's not a funny situation. That could very well happen, and that
It
has
broke.
happened. And there are people in the news all the time who've lost six figures
Yeah. And
of
can't get it back.
and
Yeah, yeah.
well, here's something interesting. When you report to the federal government, there are tiers in which they're going to pursue someone because you lost $2,500. That's not a whole lot of money
No,
to
it's
them.
chump change. Yeah.
It's chump change. You're likely not to get that back. If you lose six figures, we can argue that. But when you report it, and I highly recommend, please report it, or just like you would a burglary. Everybody wants to be known what the suspect looks like, right?
Hmm.
So you know, there's different tiers. So don't be surprised if you lost $1,000, $1,500, $3,000. Don't expect zeal on behalf of law enforcement to get that money back. I don't expect that. I'm not saying you won't. I'm just saying, just understand where you're at. But also tell your LinkedIn community. Tell people you know, the network. Hopefully they'll pass around so that everybody knows. That's what we hope to do, and that's why Jay does what he does, and Ashley does what she does with her community and on LinkedIn. That I'm hyper focused on job scams in a macro sense. Um, I wish I had enough time in the day to report everything and comment on everything every day. I comment. I try to comment, or at least every other day. I try to comment and try to make aware through my comments about five, six, seven posts a day. So the work is being done. We need more people doing the work. We're all responsible because if one of us can find that way to safety or avoid a scam, then it helps everybody. So, any last words, Jay, and include how you could be found? Uh, of course, if people on LinkedIn can, they could just find you on LinkedIn. But of course, your site, and let me get that up here real quick. And you go ahead if there's anything else you want to add.
Yeah, the link below is how you can find me. You can follow me to, discover more information about the various scams because, being a job seeker myself, I learned early on, how sophisticated these scams are and having the ability to see them and, point it out and, make it in a entertaining slash humorous way because,
Right.
it's something that gives people hope because,
Hmm.
the mental aspect of the job search is not talked about enough and the daunting each day getting up and not knowing what tomorrow's going to bring and you have to apply and it can feel hopeless and so to
Hmm.
avoid the scams and get people quicker to their next opportunity is why I do it. So you can follow me at the links below and like I said, you can follow Mark and Ashley and we'll keep you protected as best we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Ashley?
Yeah, and these two are so fun to follow. I'm telling you, if you don't follow them now and you're coming here through my side, go follow them. They share some really interesting stuff. So for me, if you are not working in the field of cybersecurity, one of the best things you could do is follow me on LinkedIn. Okay, and that's Ashley Price Horton, just as my name is written there. If you are navigating job hunting within the cybersecurity field, I highly recommend that you not only connect with me on LinkedIn, but also through this platform. This is my community that has been created to help people navigate the nuances of job hunting so that you can go on to land interview number one, two, three, and an offer from a legitimate company. And there's a bunch of people who are in this chat right now through the company. We are a like a one for all for one. I think that's the motto.
Mhm.
We're all together, right? And so when one wins, we all win. When one gets scammed, we all get scammed. So we're here today showing up for each other.
Yep, yep. And I'll say too, I hope that you'll come back and that you'll subscribe to the Job Scan Report. There are almost 3,500 subscribers to that newsletter, and
That's awesome.
hopefully there'll be more. And yeah, it gets the word out. And whenever we have episodes or whenever there's a newsletter, there's usually between 1 and 2,000 that actually engage in newsletter, which is fantastic. And I thank you all for that. There will be coming soon some paid, or put it this way, if you've subscribed, that I have some very I mean, if you subscribed on the paid level, there's some very special content that I'll have coming up soon. But I try to make most of it free. It's like right now, it's about 90% of it's anybody can access and get a hold of it. You can only find the podcast on Substack. You can go to my YouTube page, just put in Mark Anthony Dyson, and it'll be easy to find. You'll find it already live here, and you'll find the video on YouTube. You'll also find the replay on LinkedIn as well. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact any of us and all of us. And maybe in 2 weeks, we could do this again. We'll
Yes.
see.
Yeah.
This was hot. And I can't wait to see, how far we get, and also the other layers of scams that will be coming our way that we haven't touched on yet because nobody's invented them yet. That's how fast they're running. In the meantime, thank you very much for joining, and we're going to cut it loose here. You guys have a great day.